वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। श्रील रूप गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। So thank you very much once again, Dhameshwar Prabhu. Thank you all the wonderful devotees for kindly being present here today in our continuation of our series on Srila Rupa Goswami Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam, and we are continuing from where we left off last time. In the previous session of Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam, we discussed how Upasthavegam is described in relationship with those ashramas besides the Grihastha ashram, basically those who are renunciates, brahmachari, vanaprastha and sannyas, and especially focusing on the brahmachari ashram. Now we will continue, but once again I'd like to offer my obeisances to Sri Rupa Goswami. Nirmathya bhakti pathodhim uddhritam bahuyatnatah Upadeshamritam yena tam Śrī-Upamupasmahe. We offer worship to Sri Rupa Goswami, by whom the nectar of bhakti was churned, and the Upadeshamritam, the nectar of instruction, was extracted with great effort. So dear devotees, we are today going to reach our conclusion of the first verse of Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. In the previous session, we were seeing Upasthavegam in relationship with the brahmachari ashram mainly, and also it applies to the vanaprastha and sannyas ashrams. Now, this is about those who were situated in the brahmachari ashram. In today's day and age, there are often individuals who are not able to find shelter in any ashram. So neither are they able to become members of the brahmachari ashram, nor are they able to become grihasthas. So this applies both for men and women. In the Shastra, it is not recommended that a person stay without an ashram. In general, it is not recommended to stay without an ashram, that too in this age of Kaliyuga, because things are very difficult in this age for the sadhakas. Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhushan quotes a smriti, a statement from the Shastra, in his commentary to Shri Vedanta Sutra, his Govinda bhasyam. Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhushan says, anashrami na tishteta dinam ekam api dvijah. He says, iti smritehe. This is a statement from the smritis. So Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhushan says, the smriti literature says clearly that dvijah, a twice born individual, should not remain anashrami. The meaning of anashrami is without an ashram. Dinam ekam api, even for a single day. So even for a single day, a person who is twice born should not remain without an ashram. Now this automatically indicates that people who are without an ashram become ineligible to be twice born. Because Dhameshwar Prabhu, when does a person become twice born? What ceremony is that called, Prabhu?
Upanayana samskar.
Right. And after Upanayana, what does a person become?
Dvija, brahmana.
Right. But Dvija is the Varna. But which ashram does a person enter into after receiving Upanayanam?
Which Varna?
No, no,
Brahmana.
no, no.
Which
Which ashram?
ashram? It could be any ashram. Brahmacharya, actually brahmacharya grihastha.
Yeah. So basically, he enters the brahmachari ashram. A brahmachari is given Upanayanam.
Traditionally.
Yeah, traditionally, a brahmachari is given Upanayanam. So a person's sacred thread ceremony is performed when that person is about to enter into the brahmachari ashram. So anashrami na tishteta dinam ekam api dvija. As soon as a person becomes dvija, twice born, one should not remain without an ashram even for a single day. The term ashram has a very interesting etymology. Ashrama. A means thorough and shrama means austerity. So in all the ashramas, there is a good amount of austerity involved. The brahmachari's austerity we saw in the previous session, how the brahmachari has to have matted hair, how the brahmachari has to, wear a mekhala, girdle around the waist, so that it is not very easy to live the life of a traditional brahmachari. So ashrama means thorough and shrama means austerity. The grihastha also has to undergo thorough austerity in order to maintain his or her home. So in every ashrama, there is thorough austerity. But there is one person who escapes all of this, and that is the person who remains anashrami or without an ashram. In Kaliyuga, there are many people who are anashrami, and for various reasons. Some individuals are not able to find a compatible life partner, and neither are they able to become brahmacharis or brahmacharinis. And for many other reasons, some individuals remain without an ashram. So today we are going to look into that too, because it is important to also take into consideration all those individuals who are without an ashram, and how does upastha vegam, how do they manage their restriction of upastha vegam. So there is something which the anashrami, so let's say a person who is not within any ashram, so that person should themselves know a few things. Okay, so an anashrami should know about himself or herself a few things. What should they know? First, an anashrami is traditionally neither eligible for receiving the sacred thread nor eligible to be a brahmana. So this is traditionally I am speaking. Maybe in today's day and age in the ISKCON society, somebody may receive second initiation even though they may not be in an ashram. But they should know that traditionally they are not eligible for receiving the sacred thread, because as soon as one receives the sacred thread, it comes with an ashram. And traditionally, one who doesn't have the sacred thread is not eligible to be a brahmana. Secondly, somebody who remains an anashrami does not easily repay debts to the ancestors. In Vedic culture, every individual has to pay some debts to the ancestors. So these debts cannot be paid back unless one is situated in an ashrama. Whenever a ceremony is performed, whenever a ritual is performed, a grihastha has to compulsorily sit with their spouse. So a husband cannot perform a ritual all by himself. A wife cannot perform the ritual all by herself. The husband and wife both have to sit in order to perform the various rituals of householder life. One ritual which occurs every year is called as Shraddh, Tarpana, Pindadan. Arjuna was worried in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that if we kill all the elders, who will offer oblations to the forefathers? So offering oblations to the forefathers is something which every grihastha in Vedic culture is expected to do, so that they can repay their debts to their ancestors. We exist today because of our ancestors, and we should do something for them. This is Vedic life. But a person who stays anashrami is not able to perform any of these ceremonies, because in order to perform a ceremony, one has to situate oneself in an ashrama, and one has to be together with one's spouse. And only after being situated in an ashram can one easily repay one's debt, especially to the forefathers and ancestors. This does not mean that an anashrami cannot attain perfection in his or her life. They can certainly attain perfection, and they can also pay back debts, but they have to follow the path of one-pointed bhakti, one-pointed, undeviated bhakti. If they do not follow the path of one-pointed, undeviated bhakti, then the possibility of attaining perfection and paying back the debts is low. And in order to perform one-pointed bhakti, they should understand that they should have a character which is free of vyabhichara. Rameshwar Prabhu, have you heard the term vyabhichara before?
I think it's used in the Nectar of Devotion.
All
Vyabhichari
right.
Bhav.
All right. So, okay, that is in a different sense. But the
Okay.
term vyabhichara is, have you heard the verse mam cha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate saguna
Sagunan Samatitya.
samatityaitan brahma. So what does the term avyabhicharena mean there?
I think it means unbroken.
Unbroken. So if avyabhicharena means unbroken, what does vyabhichar mean?
Acting out of character in this
So
context.
Yes, so it means something which is broken, something which is against the rules and regulations. So basically, a person who is an anashrami should have a character which is free of vyabhichar, which means they should not break the rules and regulations. Because a person who is an anashrami, that person is at a very high risk in the society. The risk is that if they get involved with another person in the society and they do not find themselves an ashram, then what may happen is, they don't have an ashram, they are involved in a relationship, and if the relationship doesn't work, then the other person with whom they were involved, that person has to find somebody else. Now, when that person finds somebody else, the other person who is, going to get this person in their relationship, the relationship will no longer be the same, because they know that this person was previously, basically they were involved in an affair with somebody else. So it definitely affects relationships, because it's often said that the first love of a person is very special and unforgettable. So usually Vedic culture ensures that if a person has their first love, that first love turns into an ashram. But if it doesn't turn into an ashram, and if it breaks, then both people are affected. When two people come together in a relationship, it's like two different papers of two different colors sticking together using a glue. And you pull them apart, it's obviously, shades of both papers remain on each other. So therefore, those who are anashramish should take special care that there should be no vyabhichar. What is the meaning of vyabhichar? That one should, ideally, one should not engage in any illicit relationship with anybody else. And Srila Prabhupada therefore recommends that do not stay without an ashram. Rameshwar Prabhu, I would like you to read this comment by Srila Prabhupada.
25 years he will remain a student brahmachari. Then you accept one wife according to religious ritualistic ceremony, but no illicit sex. That is not allowed. Bachelor daddy is not allowed. That is very dangerous.
Yes. So Srila Prabhupada was very concerned that there are people who are not in any ashram, neither brahmachari nor grihastha. So Prabhupada used to have a term for them. He used to call them bachelor daddy. He used to say bachelor daddy is not allowed. That is very dangerous, because the lady is left with the child and she has to seek protection from somebody else or from the state. And sometimes the lady is able to earn for herself, but in many cases the lady is not able to earn for herself, and this is a big problem in many countries. So therefore, vyabhichar, breaking rules and regulations, is a big no for somebody who is an anashrami. It's a big no. Dear devotees, if any one of us is in a position of being an anashrami, we should understand that if we want to get into a relationship, it should mainly be for changing one's ashram. Getting into a relationship is not for fun. Getting into a relationship should be when we want to change our ashram. So every anashrami should understand this, because we are all bhakti yogis and we wish to control our upastha vegam. We don't want to live like people outside. So therefore, vyabhichar should not be there for an anashrami. Now, somebody may say, like Prabhupada said here, that, bachelor daddy not allowed, better you get married, or, stay within one ashram. But there are some exceptional situations in which some sadhus may have to remain anashrami. I will give one example of this. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed one of the 6 Goswamis, Shri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, specifically, not to get married. Ashtamas rahi Prabhu Bhatte Viday Dila Vivahana Kariha Bali Nishedha Karila. So, after 8 months, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to Raghunath Bhatta, the Lord flatly forbade him to marry. Do not marry, the Lord said. So then do not marry means, should I become a brahmachari? So the Lord said, no, you have to stay with your parents. And as long as your parents are alive, till that time you stay at home and serve them. And once your parents, they pass away, then you come and, take to complete renunciation. So he is not going to get married. He is not going to stay within the brahmachari ashram. But this is by the order of his guru, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in an exceptional case, if somebody's guru asks one to remain without an ashram for some special reason, because the guru may understand that this person should neither get married nor are they suited for the ashram, but they will be best suited outside if they live a life which is free of vyabhichara, which is free of deviations. So in a special case, a guru may instruct a person to remain anashrami. And when that happens, that should be considered as an exception. And in that case, a person may remain an anashrami. So Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is one example of such a person who did not marry, but later he directly joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Another example of anashrami is Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat, although he was invested with the sacred thread in his childhood by his father, they performed all the ceremonies, but he did not really live the life of a brahmachari or a grihastha. Rameshwar Prabhu, was Jad Bharat really following any particular ashram in his life?
Doesn't seem like it.
No. So neither was he brahmachari, nor a grihastha, nor a vanaprastha, nor a sannyasi. He was not living the life of any particular ashram, but he was an avadhuta. He was completely transcendental to all varnas and ashramas. Therefore, these are some exceptional cases of anashramis, sadhus who did not have any ashram in the past. The reason why I am quoting this is because sometimes, for some reasons, some sadhus, some genuine sadhakas may have to remain anashrami, but they are very serious sadhakas. We should respect such sadhus. We should never look down upon them, because in their character, we don't find any vyabhichar. We don't find any trace of breaking the rules and regulations. When Sri Raghunath Bhatt stayed in anashrami, his main purpose was to serve his parents and to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a Vaishnava. Those are the two main things that he did. When Jad Bharat remained an anashrami, he was absolutely an avadhuta. There was no trace of thinking about the opposite gender within their minds. So if an anashrami is able to stay a pure life, then an anashrami may exceptionally be allowed in this age of Kali. But the general recommendation I had specified in the very first slide, anashrami na tishtheta dinam ekam api dvija. A twice born person should not stay without an ashram for even a single day. So that is the general rule, and these are certain exceptions. Srila Jiva Goswami also says that if somebody is an anashrami, that sadhu, should not be judged. Basically, anashramis, they should avoid vyabhichar, and if they avoid vyabhichar, then those sadhus are perfect. What are the 8 vyabhicharas? We have seen previously. Smaranam, Kirtanam, Kelihi, Prekshanam, Guhya Bhashanam, Sankalpo, Adhyavasayascha, Kriya, Nishpattir, Evacha. We have seen this previously. There are 8 vyabhicharas, or 8, breaking of the rule of brahmacharya. What are those 8 things? Smaranam, remembering, but remembering lustfully. It's not a violation of brahmacharya to remember a lady, but to remember a lady lustfully is a violation of brahmacharya. Kirtanam, glorification. Somebody may genuinely, a brahmachari may genuinely glorify a Mataji. Somebody may say, a brahmachari may glorify an elderly Mataji. That this Mataji, she makes very nice garlands. So this is glorification, but this glorification doesn't go against brahmacharya. Why? Because this glorification is not done lustfully. So wherever all these things include lustfully. So remembering lustfully, glorifying lustfully, Kelihi, flirting. Here, lust is automatically included. Prekshanam, gazing lustfully. In general, if a brahmachari has to speak to a woman, if he has to, look at a lady, or if a lady who is brahmacharini has to speak to a man, then they can look at each other, they can speak to each other. But this should not be done lustfully. So, gazing lustfully, speaking in private. So a brahmachari or a brahmacharini should ideally ensure that they do not speak to the opposite gender in private. In private, it should be ensured that when they are speaking to the opposite gender, another person is present there. So if another person is present there, another person of the same ashram is present there, then that is preferred over speaking in private. Of course, this is not always possible. So whenever it is not possible, one should be extremely careful. Then sankalpo, to make up one's mind for sex, adhyavasayascha, to put in efforts to engage in sex, and kriya nishpattirevacha, to finally engage in sex. These are 8 violations of brahmacharya. These are 8 vyabhichars of brahmacharya. So those who are in the brahmacharya ashram, those who are anashramis, for both of them, these 8 are to be strictly followed. So these 8 should be remembered by those who are not only brahmachari, vanaprastha sannyasi, but also those who are anashramis. Now, it is very nice if a brahmachari also cultivates a small dose of jugupsa. What is jugupsa? Jugupsa refers to disgust. In the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, jugupsa prati is disgust for the material world. We should know that these techniques help in the immediate run. In the immediate run, these techniques help one's brahmacharya. So I will give one example of jugupsa that a brahmachari can cultivate. This is given by Sri Jiva Goswami in his commentary to Srimad Bhagavatam. Yadi namasya kayasya yadantas tadbahir bhavet dandam udyamya lokoyam shunah kakams varayet. Yadi nam asya kayasya, if these bodies of ours, yad antas, that which is inside, tad vahir bhavet, were to be turned out. So if our body were to be turned inside out, as it is shown in the image, then dandam udyamya, with a stick, lokoyam shunah kakams varayet, everyone would spend all of one's time in warding away dogs and crows with a stick. See, this is the nature of the human body. Let's just put it in this way. A brahmachari or a brahmacharini should realize this fact, that every body, not everybody, every body stinks. This is what is called jugupsa. Every body stinks. Every human body and all the 9 gates of human body are continuously emitting foul substances 24 hours a day. There is no human body, irrespective of race, color, creed, nationality, all of them are just the same. All gates of human body are equally disgusting. This is known as jugupsa. So Dhameshwar Prabhu, do you feel jugupsa helps in, staying away from lust? Hare Krishna.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. So do you feel,
Yes.
Prabhu? Yeah. Do you feel jugupsa helps in, keeping away from upastha vegam?
Yes, it gets you out of the enjoyment. Sure.
Yes. So jugupsa is a temporary measure to help us get out of, this tendency of lust, but it is not a permanent measure. You see, the human body absolutely stinks. From all the gates of the body, from all the gates of the body, there are repulsive substances that come out. Still, people do not give up their faith of enjoyment within the body, because even though it is very disgusting, the human body is still capable of generating and giving a lot of pleasure. Therefore, the human body, although it is a source of jugupsa, disgust, still many people are hopelessly attached to this human body. I will give another example. For example, those of us who have seen other people eat non-vegetarian food, especially fish, there is something known as a shrimp. So Dhameshwar Prabhu, you must have seen what is a shrimp.
Yes.
It's a very common fish. Now, a shrimp is a very common fish. In India, in Hindi, we call it jhinga. So this shrimp is actually known as, I'm sorry to say this, sorry for producing jugupsa, it is known as the cockroach of the ocean, because it is exactly what it is. What cockroaches are to land, shrimps are to the ocean. They have exactly all the same features and functions. But still many people, even though they know all of this, still many people eat disgusting food. Why? Because simple jugupsa is not capable of permanently driving away sense gratification. Still, for the time being, jugupsa helps a person stay away from sense gratification. So jugupsa is disgust, and a healthy and small dose of jugupsa can sometimes be cultivated by those who are anashramis as well as those who are brahmacharis. So I am giving some basic tips for those who are in these ashramas. How can they try to prevent their upastha vegam? Next, sometimes even though a brahmachari or an anashrami, they try their best to control their senses, sometimes, they are unable to control themselves. Specifically, for those who are brahmacharis, it sometimes happens that while they are asleep, sometimes accidentally, they experience what is known as a fall down. So an accidental error is experienced during sleep, sometimes for brahmacharis. So when this happens, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, Lord Shri Krishna explains in the Srimad Bhagavatam how to rectify such a situation. So Shri Krishna says in the 11th canto, Reto navakire chatu brahma vratadhara swayam avakirneva gahyapsu yatasu stripadam japet. One observing the vow of the celibate brahmachari life should never pass semen. If the semen by chance spills out by itself, the brahmachari should immediately take bath in water, control his breath by pranayam, and chant the Gayatri mantra. So see, immediately we come to know that if a brahmachari has an accidental fall down which was not intentional, then a brahmachari can correct the accidental fall down as explained by Lord Shri Krishna in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But this is for an accidental fall down, especially, fall downs that happen during sleep, without one's control. So this is explained by Bhagavan Shri Krishna in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna also explains that these were accidental fall downs. A brahmachari should completely avoid falling down purposely. Strinam nirikshana sparsha samlapakshvelanadikam pranino mithuni bhutam agrihasto gratastyajit. Dhameshwar Prabhu, can you please read the translation?
Those who are not married, sannyasis, vanaprasthas, and brahmacharis, should never associate with women by glancing, touching, conversing, joking, or sporting. Neither should they ever associate with any living entity engaged in sexual activities.
Yeah, I have highlighted this last part. Neither should they ever associate with any living entity engaged in sexual activities. This is because nowadays it is very easily possible for those who have a computer and a little bit of loneliness to witness people engaged in sexual activities. The Srimad Bhagavatam has already covered this part of a brahmachari's life. A brahmachari should never witness any living entity engaged in sexual activity. So, because the Srimad Bhagavatam understands, previously these things were not there when the technology was not there, but previously there were cases like Ajamil. Ajamil saw a lusty man and a lusty woman embrace each other, and Ajamil fell down from his position due to that. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam very clearly says that a brahmachari should never associate with any living entity engaged in sexual activities. Now, a brahmachari should never associate with the women by glancing. Glancing here means glancing lustfully. Touching, conversing. Conversing here means conversing lustfully. Joking or sporting. So all the things which Sridhar Svami had said, the 8 disturbances to brahmacharya, the 8 vyabhicharas to brahmacharya, Lord Shri Krishna covers all of that in this particular verse. So all of these are included in this particular verse. Now this makes life very difficult for the brahmacharis, especially those who are in the cities. Don't you agree, Dhameshwar Prabhu, that it is very difficult for them?
Yes.
Yes. Therefore, we see that the brahmachari ashram in many places is either not present, or the brahmachari ashram is, there are very few brahmacharis staying in the ashram. So in this way, the brahmachari situation and the anashrami situation, both situations are difficult, especially in this day and age. And therefore, from time to time, it may happen that even though a brahmachari has the best of intentions and anashrami has the best of intentions, they are serious about their progress. Still, from time to time, it may happen, sometimes it may happen that everything may fail. And when something like that happens, Dhameshwar Prabhu, should Bhakti Devi protect us or should Bhakti Devi not protect us? Please tell me.
I'm thinking of 2 verses, Prabhuji. Once in the purports of the Etymology, and when the Lord frees them from sinful reactions.
Okay.
I don't remember if it's accidental or intentional. I'm assuming it's accidental. The other one I'm thinking of is Jata Shadtomat Katasu Nirvina Sarvakarmasu.
Right. All right. So, but Prabhu, should there be some hope for a brahmachari or an anashrami who have tried their best, but still their heart is so weak that they are not able to sometimes control themselves? Should there be
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were so generous towards the grihasthas, yes or no? Should we not?
Yeah.
So towards the brahmacharis, also towards the anashramis, we should be a little generous. So when everything fails, and this may happen with some individuals. Our acharyas have described the situation in their literature. Srila Bhakti Vinode Thakura describes the situation in his Gopinath song. There are 3 Gopinath songs. In the 3rd Gopinath song, he specifies this. Gopinath har je mene che ami, aneka jatana hailo viphala, ekhana bharasa tumi, मन जे पागल मोरा न माने शासन सदा चेतन विषय रहे छे घोर. So Srila Bhakti Vinode Thakur says, Gopinath har je mene che ami. Oh Gopinath, I lost the battle. So I tried everything. I tried disgust. I tried preventing, all those 8 deviations from brahmacharya. I tried everything, Gopinath. I lost the battle. Aneka jatana, all of my endeavors. Haila vifala, they have proved futile. Ekhana bharasatumi. Now you and you alone are my only hope. Gopinath man je pagal mor. Gopinath, my mind has gone completely insane. Na mane shasan. It has no respect for any kind of discipline now. Sada achetana. Forcing me to remain senselessly in the dark, ghastly pit of Vishaya, right, Shekhor, of material sense gratification. So this often happens, with a devotee who has been trying for long, but then a devotee fails. And when that happens, Srila Bhakti Vinode Thakur describes the situation of such a devotee. Now, these are such situations when a devotee usually cannot tell anybody else. These are situations which are so sensitive that a devotee sometimes feels ashamed to reveal one's heart to somebody else. Therefore, the devotee is only able to speak to Bhagavan in such cases. So, it is very nice if the devotee can have a confidential friend with whom they can speak. But if the friend breaks their confidence, then the devotee will never be able to trust anybody so easily. Therefore, it is very essential that the devotee should know what to do in such a situation where they have tried genuinely to, control upasthavegam, but they have failed. So, our Shri Bhagavan speaks in the 11th canto to Shri Uddhava. Badhyamanopi madbhakto विषयैर अजितेन्द्रियः प्रायः प्रगल्भया भक्त्या विषयैर्नाभिभूयते. Badhyamanopi madbhakto. Uddhav, if my devotee has not fully conquered his senses. Vishayer ajitendriya, he has not conquered his senses. Badhyamano, he may be harassed by material desires. But prayah pragalbhaya bhaktya, but by his strong bhakti, Vishayer na abhibhuyate, he will never be defeated by sense gratification because he is firmly fixed on the path of bhakti. So he or she are firmly fixed on the path of bhakti. Therefore, even though right now they are bound by sense gratification, harassed by sense gratification, ultimately they will be victorious over sense gratification if the condition given in the verse is pragalbhaya bhaktya, if strong bhakti, unflinching bhakti remains within them. So if unflinching bhakti remains within them, then definitely they will be able to conquer. So very important to understand. It is not a problem to be harassed by sense gratification. That may happen with many people. The problem is when one gives up one's one-pointed bhajan because of being harassed by sense gratification. That is when the problem begins. The problem is when we become unfavorable towards Bhagavan because of being harassed by sense gratification. That is when the problem begins. So as long as we are unflinching in our bhajan, till that point of time, Bhagavan says that he will not be defeated by sense gratification. Sense gratification has truly defeated us when we turn away from Bhagavan. That is when sense gratification has truly defeated us. So this is the sum and substance of the verse. That Bhagavan doesn't judge a devotee so severely if the devotee is harassed by sense gratification. Bhagavan was judging the brahmachari very strictly.
The brahmachari should not do this. The brahmachari should not do that. He should never discharge semen. But that was for a brahmachari who was not a devotee. But when a brahmachari becomes a devotee, what is Bhagwan's statement for him? Sometimes he may be affected by some desire. But if he has unflinching devotion for me, he will not be defeated by sense gratification. Does this sound more relaxed, Dhameshwar Prabhu?
It's forgiving.
Yes, it's forgiving. Yes. But we will not stop here. We have to have something more. So we have to give a solution, because there are many who are anashramis. There are many who are brahmacharis, but sometimes they face issues with upasthavekam. Therefore, it is important to go ahead and give them a solution. Our acharyas teach us a secret, and today I am going to teach a secret to those who are listening. But the acharyas will only teach us something if we are sincere. So Srila Jiva Goswami says, dear devotees, if you are sincere, yet you are experiencing, an issue with controlling various senses, then please hear this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes a verse from the 11th canto. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhyatmana vanusrita svabhavat karoti yat yat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayetat. Dhameshwar Prabhu, can you please read the translation?
In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to Supreme, thinking, this is for the pleasure of the Lord.
Whatever one does, Prabhu, I do many things with my body. Whatever I do with my body, I can offer to Bhagavan.
Anything that's not against Dharma.
And if it is against Dharma,
you shouldn't offer that.
Oh my goodness. Then why is he saying here whatever one does with one's body? It should have said, na? See, you understand Sanskrit, karoti yat yat, whatever one does. So he should have said karoti yat yat dharmam, whatever dharma one does. But instead it says karoti yat yat, whatever one does. Dhameshwar Prabhu, if some of my activities are not so wholesome, then can I use this verse, Prabhu?
I guess you take this verse as offering anything, but you keep it in mind, nam no balad yasya papa buddhi, that you shouldn't intentionally do sinful things and then just offer.
I'm sorry, yeah, you shouldn't do it intentionally and then just offer it?
Yeah, that's an offense to the holy name, to sin on the strength of chanting or being able to offer things and just continually do that, but offer it.
No, there's nothing about the holy name mentioned in the verse. Nothing about the holy name. No, we are not we're not, comparing oranges with apples. No, we're not mixing two separate concepts. The verse doesn't say that whatever one does, one should chant the holy name and relieve oneself of sins. No. The verse says whatever one does, just offer it to Bhagavan. And there's no involvement of the holy name here. So that aparadh is not involved here. That aparadh, that offense comes into picture when somebody thinks, I will commit this activity and then I will atone for it by chanting one extra round. That is when that aparadh occurs. But that is not the case here. Why will Srimad Bhagavatam encourage somebody to perform namaparad? The point here is, whatever one does, one should offer to the Supreme Lord. Now I am doing a lot. Let's say, suppose I am a new devotee. I just become a new devotee and I joined the brahmacharya ashram. Now, let's say if I have a bad habit from the past. Let's say in the past I used to love smoking cigarettes. All right. So one day I go out of the ashram for preaching, and out on the street I see somebody smoking cigarettes. Immediately my mind becomes weak, my heart becomes weak. I feel like smoking. maybe once or twice I'm able to avoid, I'm able to resist my tendency. After a few days, a few weeks, I feel extremely troubled at heart. Then when nobody is looking, I go to a superstore and I buy a pack of cigarettes and I smoke. Now I'm happy, Prabhu. And once again, I'm happy. Dhameshwar Prabhu, I committed an unwholesome activity. Now what can I do about it?
Take measures to prevent it in the future.
Oh my, no, that's about the future. That's about the future. What about what I did today? I smoked today. What should I do about that?
Offer it to the Supreme Lord.
Oh my goodness. Is that allowed, Prabhuji?
Well, how does that please the Lord?
Yes. So we will discuss that today, because that's why a secret is being taught. Srila Jiva Goswami is saying, please note this verse. Dear devotees, please note this verse very carefully, because this verse is the key to unlocking a new concept in bhakti. Srila Jiva Goswami calls this new concept as āropa-siddhā bhakti. What is āropa-siddhā bhakti? A new technical term has been introduced. Bhakti we know, siddha means perfected, and āropa we will understand. So what is the meaning of āropa-siddhā bhakti? The term āropa means allegation. Somebody who is not a criminal is turned into a criminal by casting something upon that person. What do we cast upon that person in order to make him a criminal? Dhameshwar Prabhu?
An allegation or accusation.
Yeah. So in Sanskrit, the allegation or accusation is known as āropa. Similarly, there are many activities in our day-to-day life which have nothing to do with bhakti. Absolutely nothing to do with bhakti. For example, I wake up in the morning and I brush my teeth. Dhameshwar Prabhu, I am brushing my teeth. Does this activity have anything to do with bhakti?
No.
No. So this means I am performing a non-devotional activity. So am I wasting my time, Prabhu, by performing a non-devotional activity, or can this activity be devotionalized?
It supports your bhakti and you can even offer it.
All right. It supports my bhakti. That's a very indirect way of supporting bhakti. I understand that. But those activities which have nothing to do with bhakti, you can cast an allegation of bhakti upon those activities. This term in Sanskrit is called āropa. So in the previous verse, let's go back to the previous verse. Karoti yat yat, whatever one does, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking this is for the pleasure of the Lord. Dhameshwar Prabhu, was it really for the pleasure of the Lord, or was I carrying out my day-to-day activities?
You're just carrying out your day-to-day activities.
So I am
But
yeah.
Krishna says that one who is clean is very dear to me, doesn't he?
Yeah, he says, but I'm not clean. I smoked a cigarette today, Prabhu. See? So I am in the process of becoming clean. I'll become dear in the future. Right now, I'm struggling. So what I was doing was my day-to-day activities. And then I threw an allegation upon all of them. Oh Krishna, whatever I do, let it be for your pleasure. So this, dear devotees, is what is known as an āropa, an allegation. So an allegation is thrown upon activities which have nothing to do with bhakti. And by throwing an allegation of bhakti, activities which have nothing to do with bhakti are converted into bhakti. Now, this is not the highest type of bhakti, I agree. But this is where bhakti saves us in our lower modes of nature. So bhakti is not only for the most elevated. Bhakti is not only for the best practitioners. Bhakti is also for those who are struggling. Bhakti is also for those who have started off on the path. Srila Jiva Goswami gives an initial warning to all of us. Āropa-siddhā bhakti. Bhakti which is siddha, perfected through āropa, by casting allegations. Please understand that this bhakti is of two types. Sakaitava. with cheating. Akaitava, without cheating. Somebody may use this bhakti as a license. Now, next time I go and smoke cigarettes, I may use āropa-siddhā bhakti, and I may use it as a license. This is called as sakaitava, cheating āropa-siddhā bhakti. And when a person doesn't use it as a license, but when a person is genuinely very weak at heart and is unable to control the situation, and if some unwholesome activity occurs, and at that point of time when a person uses āropa-siddhā bhakti, that is called as akaitava, that is honest āropa-siddhā bhakti. Jiva Goswami expects all of us to follow akaitava, honest, because if we cheat here, we will be cheating ourselves. There is nobody else to cheat in the world, dear devotees. The only person we will cheat is our own selves. It is we who will remain in the material world. Therefore, it is important to understand that sakaitava and akaitava, these both types of āropa-siddhā bhakti are there. And in these two types of āropa-siddhā bhakti, it is important to understand that Jiva Goswami expects us to follow akaitava, honest, without cheating tendency, āropa-siddhā bhakti. A new tool is being given to us, but with the hope that we will not misuse it. Srila Jiva Goswami says, we quoted a verse from the Bhagavatam which said every activity should be offered. Sri Jiva Goswami says, read the commentary of Sridhar Svami, okay, on that verse. So let's read the commentary of Sridhar Svami on that verse. Srila Sridhar Svami says, na kevalam viditah kritam eveti niyamah svabhavanusari laukakam api iti Shri Gita Sucha yat karoshi iti. Prabhuji, kindly read the English translation of Srila Sridhar Swami's commentary.
When the verse says that one should offer all of one's acts, it does not mean acts performed out of scriptural duty. It also includes all acts performed according to one's innate nature. The Bhagavad Gita 9:27 also says, whatever you do, offer unto me.
Yes, doesn't the Bhagavad Gita say that, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Yat karoshi. What does yat karoshi mean, Prabhu? Dhameshwar Prabhu.
What you do,
But
whatever
Krishna
you
should-
do.
Krishna should have said yat dharmam karoshi, whatever religious activities you do. But what did Krishna say?
Yat karoshi, whatever you do.
Whatever you do. I do many unwholesome things, Prabhu. Maybe I smoked a pack of cigarettes today. So whatever I do, is that okay?
What's the difference then between cheating and not cheating?
Maybe out of my weakness of my heart, I smoked a cigarette today. Maybe then whatever I do is okay.
So as long as you're trying, if you
Yes.
still incidentally make mistakes, you can offer that.
It seems like it. Sridhar Swami is supporting it. Jiva Goswami seems to follow Sridhar Swami. Let's look ahead because the secret is unfolding gradually. Srila Jiva Goswami knows that the devotees will have a doubt in their mind that we can offer all the good activities, wholesome activities we can offer. But what about the unwholesome activities of our lives? Srila Jiva Goswami continues describing. He says, Atra swabhavika karmano arpane dushkarmano dvividha gatihi. Now, in the offering of activities born out of one's innate nature, there is also the question of offering dushkarma, unwholesome acts. These acts are offered unto the Lord by two types of spiritualists. One is the Jnani, the impersonalist, and the Bhakta, the devotee, in two different ways. So, Prabhu, are we Jnanis or are we Bhaktas? Which category do we belong to?
Bhaktas, or
Bhaktas.
devotees.
But Sri Jiva Goswami is going to specify how Jnanis and Bhaktas offer their unwholesome activities to Bhagavan, as long as I am highlighting it is akaitava. I have put it right here. As long as it is not cheating, not as long as we have not made a license out of it. So please note this thing, very important. As long as it is out of genuine weakness of heart, till that time we can offer. Sri Jiva Goswami explains how. Jnana ichunam avisheshena. For one who is a Jnani impersonalist, he does not see anything good or bad. The entire material world is Brahman. What is good, what is bad is ultimately an illusion for him. So avisheshena. Maybe I made a mistake, but ultimately It is all an illusion. This is what Jiva Goswami says. Jnani, this is how the Jnani sees it. Naham karta, I am not the doer. Guna guneshu vartante. It's the material modes which are interacting with the material modes. This is the Jnani's vision. Naham karta guna guneshu vartante. It's not me who engaged in this activity. My senses engaged in this activity. I have nothing to do with my senses. Avisheshana. This is the vision of the Jnani. Now, bhakti ichchunam tu. Now, those who are devotees. Anena durvasana dukkha darshanena cha. So, those who are bhakti ichchus, those who are desiring for bhakti, they will see durvasana dukkha darshan. They will see misery and ill desires that will arise. They feel guilty in their hearts. This is one way of surrendering to Bhagavan at that point of time. Sa karunamaya karunam karotu itiva. Or else the devotee simply prays, may the all merciful Lord be merciful unto me. And what prayer does he pray? Jiva Goswami also gives the prayer. So, Rameshwar Prabhu, are you willing to, recite the prayer with me?
Yes.
Please repeat after me. Mama sukarmani dushkarmani.
Mama sukarmani dushkarmani.
In all my good and bad deeds. Okay. Yad raga samanyam.
Yad raga samanyam.
Whatever attachment I have left. Tat sarvato bhavena.
Tat sarvato bhavena.
May that attachment be completely. Bhagavad Vishayam eva bhavatu.
Bhagavat Vishayam eva bhavatu.
Transferred to the Supreme Lord. So very important. Prabhu, is the devotee offering the activity or the attachment to the activity to Bhagavan?
The attachment.
Yes. So once again, whatever attachment I have left for all my good and bad activities, may that attachment be completely transferred to Bhagavan. For example, if a devotee is having an attachment due to weak-heartedness, an attachment to smoking cigarettes. So whatever attachment I have for smoking cigarettes, may that attachment be transferred to the Supreme Lord. So if this is done in an akaitava mood, in a mood of honesty, without cheating, this becomes known as akaitava āropa-siddhā bhakti. And this is how such activities are also offered to the Lord, because their attachment is offered to the Lord. So for positive activities, you can offer the entire activity to the Lord. But for negative activities, we need to offer the attachment to that activity to the Lord. In this way, negative activities are also offerable to the Lord, provided our mood is a kaitava, provided we don't make a license out of it and start using this every night. We say, for today, whatever incorrect I did, please let it be offered unto you. No. Don't make a license out of this. Please, this is to be used only when there is genuine weakness of heart, when we have tried everything. Because if we cheat, whom are we going to cheat? We may be able to cheat the temple devotees for some time, the congregation devotees for some time, but ultimately the person who's going to get cheated the most is our own self. So therefore, it's important to understand that our āropa-siddhā bhakti should be akaitava. Jiva Goswami gives a verse that devotees should chant. Ya pritir avivekanam vishayeshvanapayini tvamanusmaratah same hridayanna pasarpatu. O Lord, ya pritir, whatever attachment, avivekanam, the sense enjoyers, vishayoshu, they have for sense objects, anapayini, tvam anusmaratah same, may I have the same attachment for you as I remember you. Hridayanna pasarpatu, and may devotion unto you never disappear from my heart. So basically, whatever attachment the sense enjoyers have for their sense enjoyment, O Bhagavan, may I have the same attachment for you, and may bhakti never slip from my heart. See, the same attitude that Krishna was saying to Uddhav. O Uddhav, a devotee may be troubled by sense gratification, but if he has unflinching bhakti towards me, he will not be defeated. This is the unflinching bhakti that Bhagavan Shri Krishna was speaking about. That, O Lord, may I have the same attachment in you that I have for these sense sense objects. Then Sri Jiva Goswami doesn't stop here. He quotes another verse from the Padma Purana. Yuvatīnām yathā yūne, yūnānca yuvatau yathā, manobhiramate tadvan, manobhiramatam tvai. O Lord, as the minds of young girls take pleasure in thinking of a young boy, and those of young boys take pleasure in thinking of a young girl, may my mind take pleasure in a similar manner within you. This is an example of akaitava āropa-siddhā bhakti. Now, how does that sound, Dhameshwar Prabhu? Does that sound legitimate and valid?
Yes.
Right. So, do you think there is any scope of cheating in this?
As long as you understand that your devotion for the Lord is not the same as material love, then there's
Right.
no scope for a mistake.
Right. So, this is a secret that Sri Jiva Goswami teaches us in the Sandarbhas. Dear devotees, especially those who are anashramis, especially those who are in the brahmacharya ashram, please note this thing, that this secret is being given with the trust that all of us will use it in an akaitava manner, not with a cheating tendency. So even those who are in ashramas where the possibility of falling prey to sense gratification is high, still the devotee tries their best to avoid sense gratification as much as possible. But when finally the heart is very weak, then bhakti is still there to save us in our most difficult times. Because bhakti is not simply for the happy times, bhakti is also for the depressing times, the struggling times. So this is that version of bhakti which saves us from those depressing times. See, because when we are in depressing times, many people leave us. Today we may be a good devotee and everybody loves us. Tomorrow something may happen and we may fall down from the standard of bhakti, and many individuals may leave us. But there is one entity who will not leave us, that is Bhakti Devi. She will always be there as long as we are akaitava. As long as we are not cheating her, she will not cheat us. This is very important. This relationship is very, as long as our plan is not to cheat her, she will not cheat us. And she will never leave us even if the entire world has left us. She will never leave us. So with such a insurance, such a assurance that Bhakti Devi is going to be there in the most difficult times, a brahmachari, a vanaprasthi, an anashrami, they can very confidently put their trust on bhakti. It is said in the Bhagavatam, on the path of bhakti, you can run with both of your eyes closed. It's said in the 11th canto, you can run with both of your eyes closed. So, dhavan nimilya netropi nas khalen na pate diha, says in the 11th canto. You can run with your eyes closed because somebody is protecting you. And who is protecting you? That is Bhakti Devi. So she has put this trust in all of us that we will not misuse the knowledge that she has given us. So with this trust, all the devotees in all the ashramas, they should try to progress in their bhajan. Shri Rupa Goswami says that one day a surprising change will occur as we gradually improve in our bhakti. Surprising change will occur. Sri Rupa Goswami describes a beautiful verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. पांडित्यमृत हिंडकाध्वनि गतो यः काम दीक्षाव्रती कुर्वन् पूर्वमशेष षड्ग नगरी साम्राज्यचर्यामभूत् चित्रं सोऽयमुदीरयन् हरिगुणान् उद्बाष्पदृष्टिर्जनो दृष्टे स्त्रीवदने विकुणितमुखो विष्टभ्य निष्ठीवती Pandityam Rata Hindaka Dhvanigato. He was initiated into the ways of lust. Yah Kama Diksha Vrati. He had taken Diksha. He had become initiated into lust. That is what it is saying. He roamed around freely within the vast, unrestrained kingdom of lascivious, lustful desires. Chitram, how amazing. Soyam, same person. While singing the glories of the Lord Hari nowadays, that same person now exhibits tears in his eyes. And as soon as he sees an attractive woman again, he feels repulsed while remembering his previous unwholesome desires. And thus he spits out of disgust. So he spits at his own unwholesome desires that he had in the past. So this, dear devotees, is the surprising change which occurs. How does it occur? I had explained in the previous talk that when one experiences rasa, that is the ultimate solution. I gave some temporary fixes, including the biggest fix, āropa-siddhā bhakti, which will work even if one has become weak-hearted. But ultimately, what is going to help us is Swarup-siddhā bhakti, experiencing rasa, experiencing mellows of Krishna bhakti directly, having a taste, and thus one will arrive at this stage. While singing the glories of Lord Hari, that same person now exhibits tears in his eyes. So in this way, dear devotees, this is the change that Sri Rupa Goswami wants to see within all those who are devotees but are struggling with their upastha vegam. So dear devotees, in our upastha vegam section, we covered the grihasthas, we covered the brahmacharis, and today we also gave a special focus on anashramis. I did not speak anything about sannyasis because a person ideally becomes a sannyasi in their old age. Ideally, they become a sannyasi in their old age when all of this has already been controlled. Otherwise, one should not become a sannyasi. So the rules of sannyasa are very strict. Therefore, a person should not become a sannyasi unless he has control over upastha vegam. They can remain brahmachari or grihastha, no problem. But one should become a sannyasi only when there is no possibility of turning back into previous ashramas. So for the brahmachari, for the practicing student, for the grihastha, for the practicing householder, how to restrict upastha vegam has been described. For the anashrami also I described, somebody who is not situated in any ashram. Sometimes due to some circumstances, a person may be in an ashram, but due to some unfavorable circumstances, he or she loses their ashram. Sometimes the spouse passes away. Sometimes there is a separation. Sometimes a person remains without an ashram. It's a very difficult situation in Kaliyuga. We don't know, only those devotees, those individuals know who are suffering in that position. It's very easy to pass a judgment on somebody who is suffering in a particular situation. But we have to place ourselves within the body of that person and see how difficult it is to control the weakness of their hearts. But still, if they are sincere, if they are akaitava in their approach towards executing bhakti, Bhakti Devi still has her doors open for them, provided they are willing to improve, they are willing to move ahead. Don't just stay on the path of āropa-siddhā bhakti throughout your life. We have to go to further higher versions of bhakti and experience bhakti ras. Otherwise, it will simply become a license for sense enjoyment. So dear devotees, I have explained in this way, vacho vegam, manasah krodha vegam, jihva vegam, udar upastha vegam, etan vegan yo vishaheta dhiraha, sarvam api imam prithivim sa shishyat. That sober individual who tolerates these urges, namely the urge of speech, the urge of mind, the urge of anger, the urge of tongue, the urge of belly and sex organs, can potentially instruct even this entire earth. Even after controlling all of this, if you don't want to instruct, that's up to you. Therefore, I said can potentially instruct. It's up to you. If after controlling these 6, you do not wish to instruct. But if after controlling these 6, you wish to instruct the entire earth, then you can instruct the entire earth. Absolutely no problem. And in case we are not able to control these urges, then at least we can carry out our bhajan peacefully without trying to make disciples all around the world. If we don't have the required qualification, then the only thing is we should not try to instruct the entire world. So that is the only thing that Srila Rupa Goswami is saying here. It doesn't prevent us from practicing bhakti. It doesn't prevent us from practicing bhakti. We can practice bhakti. Many people who had no control over their senses also practiced bhakti. Many people. For example, Chitraketu was in the heavenly planets with two arms around two girls, Apsaras. He was in the heavenly planet singing the glories of Lord Hari. Maharaj Yayati, for 1,000 years, he had sense gratification. And not satisfied with 1,000 years, he borrowed another 1,000 years from his son. So still, Bhagwan appeared in his lineage. Krishna appeared in his lineage and purified him. So, but these people did not try to instruct the entire earth. They did not become, gurus of the entire earth. They did not give initiation. So please try to understand this thing. Although their histories are mentioned, but because they could not control a specific urge, therefore they did not try to instruct the entire earth. So if we are in a position where we are not able to control a certain urge, the only thing which Rupa Goswami expects from us is be honest and don't try to be an instructor of the entire earth. That's all. Be honest with this. Nothing else. This is the first verse, plain vanilla. We tried to explain it. Dear devotees, I'm really very thankful. We have concluded the first verse of Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hari Parsha Prabhu. It's amazing just how many years of scholarship come into these presentations, but also it's very clear that you've been working on putting them together. The answers you provided for the questions on the thread were amazing. They're like essays that every devotee should read, all very valuable. So thank you very much. We're going to go to questions now, and I'll just call on devotees one by one. And I have a question, Prabhuji.
Right, sure, Prabhu. Okay.
Where is the place, according to Shastra or Acharyas, for devotees who are homosexual?
Right.
Are they allowed to get married? When they can't have children, what are the restrictions or allowance for sex?
Right. So there is a verse quoted by Srila Jiva Goswami in the Bhakti Sandarbha. Because see, ashram means, what is the meaning of ashram? Ashram means, grihastha ashram especially, is traditionally defined as the union of a man and a woman. This is how grihastha ashram is traditionally defined. There is a part of marriage which is called kanyadan. That is the bride. She is handed over to the groom, basically. So if there is no bride and if there is no groom, how will kanyadan, handing the bride over to the groom, take place? Because if both of them are the same, then who is the bride and who is the groom? So this cannot be decided. So the ceremonies of marriage and grihastha ashram cannot be carried out if both partners are belonging to the same gender. So therefore, technically, it is not an ashram. And I will not hesitate to say this, that it is not an ashram. So two individuals may be staying as anashramis. Okay, and they may be practicing their bhakti. But one should understand that Shastra doesn't call it an ashram. So Shastra doesn't call it an ashram. So then what is it? So is it illicit? So illicit basically means, sex outside prescribed marriage, and for brahmacharis, all avoidance of sex. Now for anashramis, there are no rules given in Shastra because Shastra doesn't give them any rights. If Shastra doesn't give them any rights, it will not give any rules. Rules are for those who have rights. I hope it is understood. But Shastra doesn't give them any rights, and Shastra doesn't give them much rules. Now, they should decide, do they want rights in spiritual life? If they say, yes, I want some rights in spiritual life. What rights do you want? I want the right to worship a deity. Then you should be following the rules. So that is what it is. Then if you want to worship a deity, then you should get initiated. Oh, then I want to be initiated. Then if you want to get initiated, then you should know what is brahmacharya. And then, this is what brahmacharya is for you. Brahmacharya means there should be no contact, no sex contact. So then, if they are willing to agree to that, then they can be initiated. because there is no sex contact. But if they say no, we wish to carry out our sex life and still we wish to get initiated and worship the deities, then Shastra definitely says a big no. Shastra says no. Shastra says a big no to that. Now some guru may come and they may try to make an exception, but Shastra will not say yes. So that is where the situation lies. So in such situations, the guru has to decide what to do. The guru may tell them, okay, you may not worship the deity, but you can chant Harinam. Let's say there is a homosexual couple who stay together. Can they chant Harinam? Of course, yes, they can chant Harinam. There's nothing stopping them from chanting Harinam. Can they go out on Kirtan? Of course, yes, they can go out on Kirtan. There's nothing stopping them from going. They can distribute books. They can do thousands of services. They can even, perform many services for the temple and the congregation. But if they want a certain type of services, then they have to follow a certain type of rules. So nothing prevents them from performing bhakti. This is what I will say. See, bhakti is very liberal. In other processes such as Jnana and Ashtanga Yoga, they are very serious about these things. The traditional Jnana Yoga does not admit even householders. Adi Shankaracharya, none of his disciple was a householder. There was one householder who became his disciple. The first thing Adi Shankaracharya did is give him sannyas. Because a householder, is traditionally not considered as eligible for impersonal Brahman realization. So therefore, an Ashtanga Yogi, you can't become an Ashtanga Yogi if you stay at home. You have to go to the forest. If you go to the forest, you can't go with your family because we can't perform Ashtanga Yoga sitting in front of a TV. That's not how it happens. So other forms of yoga are very strict and rigid. Bhakti Yoga at least allows individuals to perform certain practices of bhakti without being judged. But if they want further progress in their rights, spiritual rights, they should make further progress in following the rules. So we don't say that they should change their orientation, because I know some people are born with that orientation. So we don't say that they should change their orientation, but they should, if they want to have some higher services, then they should follow the higher rules by remaining celibate. So that is the answer. I hope that satisfies.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Next, I'll call on Parama Karuna Prabhu.
Right.
Very. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. I had a question. So, we should, those who have controlled these urges can instruct the entire world, but some, many of the people who are trying to share Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures with others, like myself, doing a humble attempt, but I have not controlled the urges, like Jivha Vegam, for example, is very hard to control. Should I stop the preaching or the, say Bhagavad Gita classes or others? I'm not making any disciples, far from it. Does that mean making disciples, or does it also mean, should I just focus on my own sadhana and becoming a better devotee myself, or is it okay to share with new devotees the basic principles?
Right. So if it's only about Jiva Vegam, if it is only Jiva Vegam, then if you are only which I'm sure you are mainly taking prasadam and you are not eating, so then you are already on the path of controlling Jiva Vegam. You're already on the path, and it only requires moderation. After this, the only thing which is required is moderation, nothing else. So it doesn't, Srila Bhakti, I remember from that, I'll remind once again, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur said, prasadam, if it is made nicely, tasteful prasadam doesn't fall under Jiva Vegam. But overeating of tasteful prasadam and running behind only eating tasteful prasadam, that falls under Jiva Vegam. So if you are, eating nice prasadam, it's not Jiva Vegam. That's why the subtle distinctions were made. But if you are overeating, or if you are every day you are thinking, what will I make tomorrow? So sometimes on Nirjala Ekadashi, a devotee is thinking, tomorrow what will I bring? So he goes to the supermarket on Nirjala Ekadashi, Nirjala Ekadashi, in order to purchase things for Dwadashi. So if that is happening regularly, then it means that there is some issue with Jiva Vegam. And otherwise, if you're eating prasadam, even if it is tasty, and if you're eating in moderation, you are on the path of controlling Jiva Vegam. Let's say it's not Jiva Vegam, it's something besides Jiva Vegam. Okay, let's say it's another Vegam. So a person then should preach according to their adhikar, speak according to their adhikar. If my adhikar is not there in Upastha Vegam, I will not give personal instructions to somebody about Upastha Vegam. I can quote from Shastra, but I will not give personal instructions to somebody. If my adhikar is not in Udar Vegam, then I can quote from Shastra and I will say, I will also try to follow, you also try to follow. But I will not give a personal instruction to anybody to follow that. So basically, Shishyat means to give a personal instruction to somebody that you must follow this, you must follow that. So that is what is called Shishyat. So see, I am also speaking on Upadeshamritam. Now I'll be speaking so many things, but I will not give a personal instruction that, Param Karuna Prabhu, from today you should do this. Why? Because I'm speaking from Shastra, I'm pointing out what is there in Shastra. So this is not Shishyat. Shishyat is when you receive personal instructions for bhajan, for your progress in bhakti. So that is Shishyat. So if you want to do that, then if you want to tell others that they should not have Upastha Vegam, and if you want to tell them privately, give them private instructions, then you yourself should not have that. So that is Swa Adhikar, and that is honesty. So, like Prabhupada used to speak the story of Gandhi. Once a lady came to Gandhiji and she said, please tell my child not to eat sweet candy. So Gandhiji said, come after 1 week. She came after 1 week, and then Gandhiji said, you should not eat sweet candies. So the lady asked, you could have said this 1 week ago. So Gandhiji said, 1 week I myself was not eating. Then I got the power to speak to others. So same with us. So not only for 1 week, but we have to regulate for a long duration of time. And then it is definitely possible that we will be able to give personal instructions to others. Otherwise, we can speak from Shastra. We can give general recommendations, like this. Like a doctor, Prabhu. A doctor sometimes gives general recommendation. You should eat less. Everybody should eat less. Everybody should, sleep in on time. But when you go to a doctor for personal advice, that is Shishyat. He is giving you personal instruction. So I hope you understand the difference. So you are also performing the part of a doctor, like a preacher. But you give general instruction. But don't if you are not if one of the Vegas is not mastered or not controlled, then better not to give personal instruction about that Vega. So I hope this is clear.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yes, very clear.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Since Damodar Prabhu's net is not working, the call dropped. Maybe Jayadwarka Prabhu can ask a question now.
Okay, so next Prabhu, Jai Dwarka Prabhu. Hare Bol Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhana Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for again a wonderful session, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had two questions. One was that, as you mentioned, that rules for sannyasis are very strict. So, if one has actually not controlled Upastha Vega, then he should not enter into sannyas ashram. But as we see in case of Srila Prabhupada, he gave sannyas to many of his disciples for the sake of preaching. So if we see that this main principle was compromised there for the sake of preaching, and in present times also we see that many devotees, they feel that personally they will not be able to do either a brahmachari ashram, but for the sake of preaching and for managerial reasons, many people are given sannyas also, managerial reasons. So then in such cases, I have also observed in some cases that the person, or either he do not want to become till the time he understands what is a brahmachari ashram or what a saffron means. Till that time, it's already too late, because his social acceptance as a saffron devotee is created, and it
Right.
becomes, and later, and he wants to change in future, but out of social pressure the person is not able to do, and then intentionally he do not become hypocrite, but circumstantially he becomes.
Right.
So and he is not willing to change because of social pressure also, and the same thing also is seen in case of sannyas ashram at the time of Prabhupada. So how to understand this, Prabhuji, and what is the option for that devotee?
Yeah. So the situation you have described is a very complicated one, because when Srila Prabhupada, he started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the society was started with young people, and young people were given all ashrams, including sannyas ashram. And the same Srila Prabhupada later at one point of time said, now no more, I don't want to give anybody any sannyas, no more sannyas for anybody. Why? Because there's just too much falling back into the previous ashrams from the sannyas ashram. So I don't want to continue this. But even after saying this later, Srila Prabhupada did give sannyas to some individuals. Now, some of them, they were able to maintain their sannyas ashram. Unfortunately, a lot of them were able to not. So obviously, what Shastra says is about accepting sannyas at a specific age and at a specific maturity. In an emergency situation, an acharya did something to start a particular movement, so that emergency situation cannot become the rule. So that will always remain an exceptional situation, and we cannot, emulate that and then expect success. So definitely that cannot be done. Secondly, you said yes, some people remain brahmachari because it's a managerial duty, nobody else can carry it out, but they are not really, they don't understand what brahmachari ashram is all about. Then a few years pass, and then their image as brahmachari becomes solidified, and then they are unable to leave. So what happens is, neither are they in control of their senses, they don't understand the brahmachari ashram, and and they also have a false image developed around them. So then what about that? So the only thing which such a person can do is be very sincere about their bhakti. If that sincerity is in them, they may be stuck in a difficult situation, but if that sincerity, that one final element of truth is there, that I sincerely still want to be a devotee and I will try everything to become a devotee, then Srila Jiva Goswami has a verse which he quotes in the Bhakti Sandarbha. He quotes a verse from the Garud Puran. He says, Vishnu Bhakti Samayukto Mithyacharopi Anashrami Punati Sakalan Lokan Sahasramshur Ivoditaha. Vishnu Bhakti Samayukto. If he has one good quality, that he is equipped with Vishnu Bhakti. Mithyacharo, he may be a pretender. Or Anashrami, he may not even be in an ashram. But still, Punati Sakalan Lokan, he can purify everyone. Sahasramshur Ivoditaha, just like the brilliant rising sun. So this is obviously a glorification of the person who has one-pointed Vishnu Bhakti, despite being in such a difficult situation. But this cannot be turned into a norm. And we should understand that the seniors in the institution should also understand that a person, how far are we willing to keep a person a mithyachari or, a pretender in order to allow him to continue acting as a manager or as a senior devotee. So this is definitely not good, and pretense often doesn't work for a long time. Bhakti is best when it is natural and organic and gradual. That is the best form of bhakti. Everything else will cause a disturbance. You have already heard this, Jai Dwarka Prabhu. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpata Yaiva Kalpate. That any bhakti which does not follow the dictations of scriptures only results in a big chaos in the society. So I hope this clarifies.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this. Prabhuji, just one more question I have, if the devotees allow to ask.
All right. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, as we see in many cases, in case of Grihastha devotees also, when the spouse is not a devotee, then many cases I have seen that they are living separately for a long period of time. So no such relation is there between them. So is that situation also counted as an anashrami?
Yeah. So you're saying, let me understand the situation clearly. So if there's a devotee whose spouse is a non-devotee and both of them are separated since a long time, is that counted as an anashrami? That's what you're asking?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, they should stay together. If they're not staying together, basically they're not staying in an ashram. If they're not staying under the same roof, they're not staying in an ashram. That's what it is.
Okay. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so
So
much for
because,
your wonderful.
yeah, thank you. Because long distance relationships are not called as an ashram. Ashram means same home.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dana
Hare
pranam.
Krishna. Then what comes? Dhameshwar Prabhu?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Bhavya Bhagavan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Pastor Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu. Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yeah. I can also see
Yeah,
you.
Prabhu, yeah, thank you. Prabhu, my first question is somewhat related to what Prabhuji had asked, Dhameshwar Prabhu. But a part of it is like there are people who have a bad experience in their married life and somehow they get divorced or separated and they no longer wish to get into enter married life again, right?
Right.
So they remain anashrami, right? So what
Hmm.
about them, Prabhu? You mentioned about like homosexuals, you told, but what about these people who, I mean, who just get so repulsive and disappointed with the ashram? I have another question, but let's go with this one, Prabhu, first.
Yeah. So they can, because in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they can take a special route, which Raghunath Bhatt Goswami took, which is that he was not situated in any ashram. And later he joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after joining Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took to complete Vairagya in white cloth. So that's a very good route. Gaudiya Vaishnavism allows complete renunciation in white cloth. That's the best thing.
Prabhu, even for Mataji's, ka?
Huh?
Even
Even
for
for
Mataji's?
renunciation is for everybody. It's not that, renunciation is also for the brahmachari, grihastha, vanprastha, sannyasi, brahman, kshatriya, vaishya and shudra. Everybody should cultivate renunciation. It's a general quality which everybody should cultivate. Now, whether somebody should wear saffron cloth or not is a different question. But in plain clothes, everybody should cultivate renunciation. I hope you are able to understand. So this is what Raghunath Bhatt Goswami also did. He didn't take saffron cloth. It was white cloth. But he was pakka renunciate, very strong renunciate after he left home. So somebody has a bad experience and somebody doesn't want to get into an ashram again, they should take permission from their guru. And when the guru allows, they can remain in plain cloth and they can take to a particular and they can take to complete renunciation and they can do their bhajan. But they should understand that now the rules are stricter for them because now it means complete celibacy. If you were so frustrated with your relationship, it should show in your practice. So that is what it means for them now. All right. So I hope this clarifies. Gaudiya Vaishnavism allows people to become renunciates in white cloth. That's the best thing about Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Wear white cloth and be a spotless renunciate because it
But
doesn't. Yes, Prabhu.
but this we cannot like explain to our karmi relatives, right? Who might just feel like they might be little bit of like modern day feminist or like I'm independent, I don't want anybody in my life, I'll manage it out somehow or other.
No, this is for the devotee. It's not
Yeah,
for somebody who is seeking their own selfish ends. This is for a devotee, somebody who wants to serve Bhagavan. This feminist or there is anti-feminist, both parties are there. Now, what does the feminist want? That the man should make the sandwich. And what does the anti-feminist want? That the woman should make the sandwich. So ultimately, bhakti means the man should think I'll make a sandwich for Bhagavan and woman will think I'll make a sandwich for Bhagavan. That's bhakti, na? It's nothing to do with feminism or men's rights or this nonsense. 21st century nonsense. First world problems, let me tell you. So 21st century nonsense, nothing else, Prabhu. So please don't get into, these things have nothing to do with bhakti. A devotee should stay far away from these things, far away. Somebody asks an opinion on these issues, it has nothing to do with bhakti. Why to, get involved in these things? These are social rights activists. They want to change the society. Please try to understand. And the devotee doesn't want to change the society. Let the society go in whichever direction it is going. No problem. We will become a devotee. All right. So if this particular individual is a feminist or whatever, then they didn't get the essence, they didn't get the main point of bhakti. The main point of bhakti is not to be a feminist. The main point of bhakti is to give everything to Bhagavan. Is to love Krishna selflessly. If that is what bhakti is all about. Otherwise, nowadays what is happening, people are told express yourself. So when they come to bhakti, they think they come with that same express yourself even in bhakti. Show your personality. Now they think whatever luggage I have got from my material life, I'll express that in bhakti and I'll call myself a good devotee. But that's not what it is. So first, this person, or whosoever they are, they have to give up their social rights ideas and they have to understand what is selfless service towards Bhagavan. If they're willing to do that, then they can have that adhikar. They can have that eligibility to, engage in that bhakti. And they should learn from a good devotee. They should learn from a very good devotee how to practice their bhajan. Because without learning from a good devotee, it is not possible. Okay.
Yeah, Prabhu, my second question. So, Prabhuji, in Madhurya Kadamni, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says that there are two stages of bhajan kriya, anishtita and nishtita. And in unsteady anishtita, the third and fourth is the sadhaka is attached to vishay. So he's attached to sense gratification. And the fourth one is niyama akshama. So he's unable to follow the initiation vows also, Prabhu. So my question is, so like we are devotees, so we practice bhakti. So is it everybody has to go through the bhajan kriya stage, and first he will go to unsteady, then from unsteady he will go to steady, then anashrami? So will that process follow for like is it like in sequence or like how is it? And if that is so that everybody has to go through unsteady bhajan kriya stage where he will be attached to vishay, where he has to undergo niyamakshama. So then for that devotee, this āropa-siddhā bhakti is very relevant, I can understand. But my question is it everybody has to go through that stage or how is it, Prabhu?
No, not everybody has to go. If you have practiced in your previous lives enough, then you don't have to go through it. If you have practiced enough, in your previous lives, in a very few years, you will be able to experience bhava and prema. So you don't have to go through unsteady if you have practiced previously. But if you have not practiced previously, then the general route you are taking. That's all. Nothing else. So if you want, the general route is described. Imagine if Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had not described that devotees have these issues. Then nobody in a society nobody tells each other we have issues, we have so many problems. Everybody pretends to be everything is fine, everything is nice with me. They all externally they say everything is nice, but internally Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur knew what are the issues and he wrote about them very honestly. So that's what it needs, an honest person who can give a solution. It doesn't need 1,000 pretenders who pretend to follow nicely and they don't give any solution. It needs one honest person to understand the situation and give a solution. That's what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur did. That's why we are very grateful that he did that. But the answer to your query is not everybody has to go through that. If they have previously gone through that in previous lives, then they don't have to go through that in the current life. That's the answer to your query.
Prabhuji, having said that, so there are 6 stages in that unsteady devotional service. So it could mean that I just undergo just one stage of that. It could be the 5th stage or 6th stage, and then I am just out of it. I go directly to steady. That could also be the case, right?
Right. Depending on how much you have progressed previously. Right. Okay. So thank you, Prabhu. Let's go. Who's the next, Prabhu?
Did I see Nagar Kirtan, Prabhu? Okay, guess not. Omkar, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I think Bhakti Mataji had also raised her hand, iPhone. but she kept it down. I don't know for what reason, but okay. Yes, Omkar Pro, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Pro.
Hare Krishna.
Is anyone
Yes,
else asking?
No, Omkar Pro, please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, sir. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had a question about this Prayena Pragalbhaya Bhaktya. What can we understand from this Pragalbha Bhakti? Because it seems very vague. Having, you can say, very good sadhana or something like that, but it seems a little vague. Can you give any example from the past history or illustrate it a little bit so that it can be understood what this Pragalbha Bhakti refers to? Like a person who had some attachments or many attachments, and what was the Pragalbha Bhakti? Obviously, that will be different for everyone, but to understand it in a general picture.
Yeah, you asked a technical question, so I'll give the meaning of the term which you were saying. There was a verse in which Bhagwan says that a devotee, he may be having issues with sense gratification, but if he has strong bhakti, pragalbha bhakti, then he is not defeated by sense gratification. So what is the meaning of pragalbha bhakti? So that is your
Yes,
question, and I will try to explain with the help of examples. For example, Gajendra, he was completely immersed in sense gratification. And although he was completely immersed in sense gratification, still it means that, he was completely surrendered unto Bhagwan. He had no other shelter besides Bhagwan, which means Sharanagati was his life and soul. Basically, he took immediate shelter of Bhagwan. So that is the meaning of, Pragalbha Bhakti. I will specify from the commentary of that verse by Srila Jiva Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami says in Karma Sandarbha commentary, and I am pointing this out. This is the same verse, Badhyamanopi Mad Bhakto Vishaye Rajitendriya Praya Pragalbhaya Bhaktya. This is the section you are asking about. Srila Jiva Goswami says in the commentary, Krama Sandarbha, प्रगल्भया समर्थ प्रभावया भक्त्या शरणागति मात्रात्मिकया. शरणागति मात्र आत्मिकया, whose life and soul is sharanagati. That is pragalbha bhakti, which means the devotee is completely surrendered to Bhagwan and takes shelter of nobody else in the entire universe. That is pragalbha bhakti, as Sri Jiva Goswami has explained. So I hope this clarifies. In the case of Gajendra, he took exclusive shelter of Bhagwan and nobody else, and did not give up the path of bhajan and did not give up his shelter. So that is Pragalbha Bhakti.
Prabhuji, in this case, what we can understand is Gajendra had performed devotional service even in his past lives. So although he had sense gratification, he had the bhakti samskaras from his past life. So
Right.
there may be a jiva who may have very little bhakti samskaras. Then how will this verse apply for him?
So they may need the help of another devotee in order to become that, in order to have that Pragalbha Bhakti.
Okay. And Prabhuji, this Sharanagati, this is towards Bhagavan.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Towards
because
Bhagwan,
this
100% towards Bhagwan. There is nothing else, only Sharanagati towards Bhagwan and Sharanagati towards Guru. That's all. Nothing else.
Okay, Prabhuji. And Prabhu, I had one second question. Normally, we always stay from the Bhagavad Gita also, Manushyanam Sahasreshu. So out of thousands of people try for perfection, and from thousands of people, anyone can understand me. Kaschin mam veti tattvataha.
No,
So
not
the point
anyone.
is,
No, not anyone. Only one person really
some,
understands.
yes, yes. So Prabhu, my question is, if many devotees are taking up to devotional service, so maybe very few will attain the perfection. So what will happen for the rest of 99%? I mean, obviously this can't be given like a data or something like that, but a general understanding, like will they attain krama mukti, or they may go back to the material life, or what is the general?
No, that verse is not about devotees. That verse is for all types of sadhakas of all paths. Out of thousands of people who are not devotees, one person takes to a spiritual path. And out of thousands of people who take to a spiritual path, one person understands me in reality. So that spiritual paths includes all the Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, everybody. So the probability of a Bhakti Yogi is not so low. It is pretty high. Because Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. Krishna says in the Gita, it's only through Bhakti that Yavan Yascha Asmi Tattvataha. I am understood in Tattva mainly through Bhakti. Only through Bhakti, basically. So the chances of a Bhakti Yogi understanding him are pretty high. Still, if a Bhakti Yogi is defeated by some sense gratification, but that setback is temporary, and the Bhakti Samskar remains and they continue in their next lives. But that is only, it's a matter of time now. It's not a matter of, it's not a matter of qualification. They're already qualified for Bhakti. It's just a matter of time now. That's all.
Okay, Prabhu. So, Prabhuji, if a devotee has the most chances to get the perfection, any devotee preacher may think that I want to forcibly make anyone a devotee, which is not at all possible. And in that process, some people may develop some Laukik Shraddha or some faith or some maybe some faith for some time. So in such cases also, what will that person undergo through? Because he has not received exact guidance about how bhakti is, but he has been just brought in by some ways. So what will be the destination of that person? Because what happens is such person, they are not fixed up in bhakti, and at the same time they are not at all fixed up with material things also. So they are stuck up in between.
So then what happens with them is what happens with every yoga bhrashta. Yoga bhrashta means they can't attain perfection here, they can't attain perfection there. But still, whatever little contact of bhakti they got will be beneficial for them. We cannot say that it was better if they remained a non-devotee. That we can never say. So they got some contact with a devotee, that's good. But forcibly it was done, that was not good. Na buddhi vedam janayet. In Hindi, वैसे दूसरों की बुद्धि मत भेदो. Don't try to split somebody's intelligence and take them away from their path of yoga. So if somebody was forcibly bought, so basically, he was a karmi and somebody was forcibly bought, it's not really recommended. But once they became a devotee, it's good. In any way they become a devotee, it's good. As long as, you're not pointing a gun on their head. As any way they become a devotee, it's good. Philosophically, any way they became a devotee, it's good. But some ways are really good, some ways are not so good. And I personally also don't like the not so good ways. So that's the answer to your query.
Yes, true. So like Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, like it can be from Swabhaviki or Balotpadita. So we can say this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, your voice is unclear, Prabhu. So, yeah, your voice is unclear, Prabhu. I'll ask Bhakti. Yeah, I'll ask Bhakti Mataji to ask her question. Bhakti Mataji. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Mataji, can you speak on Haribol? No, we're not able to hear her. All right. So maybe we'll move ahead. Ananga Mohan Prabhu, I'll unmute you. Anang Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thanks a lot for such a wonderful presentation. Prabhuji, in your lecture during COVID times, fear free bhakti in alarming times.
Okay, just a minute.
Stated,
just a minute. Is there anything pertaining to this class? Because if you ask from a very previous lecture, devotees will have to have that background. Many devotees may not have heard that. All right. So maybe Prabhu, you can ask me in person that particular question, because sometimes what happens is in some classes a devotee asks from another class, but other devotees have absolutely no idea what they're asking, of which class they're referring to. So maybe you can ask that in person. But if there's something about this class you want to ask, I would like to take that. Is there something about this class you want to ask?
No.
All right, take care, Prabhu. So you can ask me in person, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Hari.
Yeah.
Nilachal Chandrika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hari Bol.
Thank you so much for this lecture.
Okay.
I just wanted to refer to Bhagwan Prabhu's query that he said, you had mentioned that if we have done previously some bhakti, then it continues, which is, yeah. But in some class, I remember you said that our sukruti is not there, just by the mercy of the Lord and by mercy of the Vaishnavas, that we continue our bhakti. There is some, I don't understand, some confusion.
No.
Sometimes
sometimes we don't have any sukriti or any pious credit, but simply by the mercy of Bhagwan and the devotees, we get introduced to bhakti. And sometimes the mercy may be so, it may be so much that one may end up attaining prema too. But that is a very rare case. General cases, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, one is introduced in bhakti and then one progresses ahead according to one's, previous samskaras. And then, association of sadhus such a person gets, and then one progresses gradually. So entry into bhakti is by mercy of Guru and Bhagwan, and progress into bhakti is by, one's association mainly. But in a rare case, simply by mercy of Bhagwan, one can attain all prema all the way. So that may also happen. So that's the answer to your query.
So the sukruti is like some people say, oh, I did so much nice bhakti, that's why I'm born in such a family or such.
Yeah, that is bhakti sukriti from previous lives, which helps you perform bhakti in this life.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go back to Bhakti Mataji. Can you, Haripal? No, we're still not able to hear her. Okay, maybe Bhakti Mataji can ask in person or in the group. We're not able to hear her. We'll go to Deepa and Prabhu. Haribol?
Hare Krishna, am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhuji, thank you for today's class. I wanted to ask regarding that Badhyamanupi shloka. So in that it says that although he's harassed by Vishaya, he's not defeated by sense gratification. Can you clarify what this means? Defeated means as in he doesn't indulge or he doesn't revert to non-devotional life. What does it mean?
He doesn't give up his spiritual practice completely to become a karmi. So that is what defeat means basically.
Okay. And another thing, you mentioned Ananya Bhakti. Can you clarify what that Ananya Bhakti means? It means any of us who are like trying to do bhakti, or it's a high level of bhakti? What does it?
Ananya Bhakti basically means where one has no other shelter besides Bhagwan. Na Anya, basically, in which there is nobody else as your shelter, is called Ananya Bhakti. So Bhakti and Bhagwan are your only shelter, that is Ananya Bhakti. So
it could be a new person also. Or
a new person also, but he should have that maturity to come to the realization that there is nobody besides Bhagwan. A new person can also come to that realization provided he has that samskars from previous life.
Right. Okay. And that this verse is there, right? Apichet suduracharo, and then Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigachati. So here in this class, you discussed about āropa-siddhā bhakti and how we are getting harassed. So those two shlokas, does it apply? Like, do they apply to a very high level of devotee, or?
No, the thing is, Api chet suduracharo. Sudurachar means somebody commits a durachar in which he himself is not only implicated, he also has implicated somebody else in the society. So that is what sudurachar is.
Okay. And Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma, he very quickly becomes a righteous person. So
yeah. So if the if the durachar was only limited to his own life, then there are ways and means to get out of it. But if it was sudurachar, somebody else also was implicated, and he ended up victimizing many people. That is sudurachar basically. So somebody may be a sudurachari, a social criminal, but Bhagwan still has his doors open for them. But even though Bhagwan may have his doors open for them, but the law will take its course. But Bhagwan never closes his door. That is what he says.
Okay, and that quickly becoming a dharmic person, that quickly, what does it mean?
In that very life, he will again become like Valmiki became.
Okay. Okay.
Like Mrigari became. Okay. In that very life, they will become.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay. One last time we'll try iPhone. I'm sorry, it's not Bhakti Mataji's iPhone, but iPhone. Okay. Okay, so no, we're not getting an audio input. All right. So Dhameshwar Prabhu, are you still there?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm here.
All right. So nobody else is there.
Excellent. I guess we'll wrap up then.
Yes, sure, Prabhu. So the first verse has been completed today. Thank you very much, dear devotees. So we'll try to organize something next week, and we'll continue ahead, and we'll try to go into the second verse next time. Thank you very much.
Prabhu, I think there's a hand raised from iPhone, maybe Bhakti Mataji.
No, it's not. It's not. They're not able. We're not able to hear them. Okay.
And next meeting will be on Saturday.
Yeah, it's scheduled on Saturday, which is next week. So.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Prabhu. I was struggling with the app and everything.
Your name, Prabhu?
But I'm audible now?
Yeah.
This is Nagar Kirtanda.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. My pronouns.
Hare Krishna. Is it possible to ask one question?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So you were speaking about the Kaitava and the Sakaitava
āropa-siddhā bhakti
categories of āropa-siddhā bhakti, and I was just trying to understand it in the context of my experience of, it seems to be a phenomenon that sometimes when sadhakas do struggle with sense gratification, they can kind of veer between both of those categories. There can be genuine, like, man, I'm really trying to control my senses, but no matter what I do, it's not working. And then there can be, well, it doesn't work anyway, and I don't even, Prabhupada's not helping me, Krishna's not helping me, and there can even be a little bit of resentment starting to develop with the devotees or with the guru or with Krishna. And so it seems like it's kind of moving towards the Sakaitava category. And so I was just trying to understand practically how those things, what that line looks like between them. And currently to me, it seems a little bit blurry because even though that phenomenon may manifest where a sadhaka may even become slightly resentful or slightly just kind of not caring anymore, still that sadhaka may come back, and that is seen that even after developing a sort of a perhaps a Sakaitava mentality, devotee still comes back. And Prabhupada said that that's how we know if it's an accidental fall down or not, if they come back or not. So I guess I'm trying to, accommodate all these things simultaneously, where, you do a sadhak, we do see sadhakas experience symptoms of both of the sakaitava and akaitava limbs of āropa bhakti, so āropa-siddhā bhakti. So is the line hard? Is it blurry? And is it supposed to be blurry, or is there a clear delineation we should understand?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. I understood the question. So is the line between akaitava, which is honest, and sakaitava, which is cheating, āropa-siddhā bhakti, seems to be very thin. And yes, I understand that the line is very thin. And at the same time, the line is thin because one's intentions may suddenly go from being sincere to being resentful and I don't care, as you very clearly explained. But Srila Jiva Goswami is expecting, and the acharyas are expecting, the devotee to keep in contact with good sadhus, and good sadhus who keep him favorable towards Bhagwan, even though he or she may be struggling with sense gratification. The main verse which defines bhakti is Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. I have shown on the screen. Anukulyena is the main condition of bhakti. Anukulyena basically means favorably executing service to Krishna. And that is what Anukulyena means. So as long as one is Anukulyena, or one is favorable towards Bhagwan, till that point of time, once one is on the correct track. As soon as one becomes pratikul or unfavorable, then one is on the incorrect track. But still sometimes one comes back, but one comes back because of the influence of some sadhu, or some, they may come back because of the influence of Srila Prabhupada, or by hearing some other sadhu. So as long as they are in contact with a sadhu, they will remain anukul. Anukul means they will remain favorable. And as long as they are favorable, sometimes some lapse may be there, but that lapse is temporary, it can be rectified. But if they don't remain in contact with sadhus, then that will become a very big lapse and they can fall permanently out of bhakti. And that is when Srila Prabhupada said that they have truly fallen. So as long as the favorability is there, till that time they are in the safe zone. But as soon as the favorability is lost, then they are in a very dangerous zone. So favorability towards Bhagwan should be there. Sometimes they may be a little sakaitava, but that is not as big a problem as becoming unfavorable towards Bhagwan. So I hope that answers your question to some degree of satisfaction. Hare Krishna. Ananda Kopika Mataji, one last query, and then we'll.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for the wonderful class and presentation. I just have a comment since we finished the first verse of NOI. I just wanted to say how much benefit we are getting out of your classes and presentations, because everything you speak, you're quoting from the verses, from the scriptures, and it's really, really helping. Little example I wanted to give was āropa-siddhā. So for the belly, how we should be eating, that also you described from the scriptures, and we've been practicing. I wanted to tell you that 2 times a day, and that has been really, really helping. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It will really help you, and it's been tried and tested. So thank you so much for practicing. One of the principles. I'm really, really grateful and appreciative that you put it into practice. So 1,000 people may hear, 100 people may appreciate, and 1 person may put it into practice. And you're the one who did it. So I'm really grateful, Mataji. Thank you so much for kindly putting it into practice. That's the success of
inspired by your classes, Prabhu. So all credit goes to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
What a nice comment. Thank you very much. And I'll invite all the devotees to unmute and give a big thank you, a big Hare Krishna to Hari Parshad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranam. His Grace Hari Pasha
Yeah,
Prabhu.
thank you, Haribol.
Srila
Jai,
Prabhupada
jai.
ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Oh, Jai. So good to see.